an organization very close to me and who does a fantastic job of supporting equality through sport. Hi everyone, welcome to Michael Johnson Performance, where we train and support athletes from around the world to be the best that they can be and realize their sporting dreams and goals. I've won 4 Olympic gold medals and 8 world championships. I've held the world record in the 200 meters and 400 meters and still hold the world record in the 4x400 meter relay. In addition to serving as president and founder of Michael Johnson Performance, I also run a charity, Michael Johnson Young Leaders, where we support young people around the world who have the potential to be leaders in their communities and eradicate inequality in their communities. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals were created by government leaders to create a better world by the year 2030. These 17 goals have the power to end poverty, fight inequality, and stop climate change. Guided by the goals, it is now up to us, businesses, governments, and society at large to all work together to make a better future for everyone. United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 10 is all about reducing inequalities. Under this goal, we're trying to do things like ensure equal opportunities and end discrimination, and promote universal social, economic, and political inclusion. Sport is an incredible tool for overcoming inequality, whether it be racial, gender, economic, or ability. Talk about sports and what it's meant in your life.
Sports has really just been like my rock all throughout my life. When I did AAU or anything with sports, I always had a core group of family and friends that I could lean on, and really another support system from the one that I already had.
People are dealing with a lot. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of inequality in the world today. How can we use sport, in your opinion, to be able to tackle those challenges?
Just gotta be honest with ourselves. Can't treat anybody differently. Like, we all was brought up, we knew people that was treated differently because they didn't play sports. You know what I'm saying? We should have been the ones, as athletes, to put our hands around those that's not accepted, outside of sports. That's what I think.
Has there been in your life any time, as a result of sport or not, where you faced some inequalities in your life?
Just being new to a sport. Just being new to a sport and learning where everybody else may have been playing longer. I started playing football when I got to college, really. I wasn't as confident in knowing what I was supposed to do.
Outside of sport, how has your involvement with sport and what it's meant to your life, how has it helped you outside of sport?
I really feel like sports has kind of helped me keep level-headed and grounded towards a goal.
My name is Michael Johnson, and I support Global Goal 10, Reducing Inequalities. Share this video to help us contribute to Global Goal 10 through the power of sports.
I think we're gonna play the Eagles, but it'll be hard when we go. Yeah, I think so too. Ooh, check out this cool video.
Hey guys, it's Hope here. I wanted to share a quick video with you, but you have to watch it all the way through to the end, because for every person that does, Live Nation and myself will donate $1 to the Beyond Sport Foundation, an amazing organization that supports gender equality through sports. So check it out.
Whoa, that's so cool. Yeah, right?
You girls ready for this?
Yes! You guys think you can beat any team out there?
Yes!
Great, because before we end today, we have someone really special that has something to say about that.
What's up, ladies? How are we today? Good. I'm so happy to be here. I am talking to you today about a topic that is incredibly important to me, and a topic that I know is important to you as well. Do you believe in equality?
Yes!
Do you believe that everybody should have the same opportunities regardless of where they come from or who they are?
Yes!
Do you believe that if a boys team walked in here right now, you could beat them?
Bring it on.
Do you believe that you could beat a men's team?
Too easy.
Well, I got one for you. Hey, dads. So let me tell you more about why we are here today. In 2015, world leaders came together at the United Nations to develop a plan that would end poverty and inequality around the world while protecting the planet from the devastating effects of climate change. They agreed upon 17 global goals called the Sustainable Development Goals as a blueprint for a brighter future with opportunities for everyone, regardless of who we are or where we come from. The deadline to achieve the global goals is the year 2030. Goal number 5 is gender equality, to end discrimination against all women and girls around the world. That means equal pay, equal opportunities, equal access to education, and so much more. And achieving Goal 5 is crucial to achieving every other goal by 2030. The good news is we're already seeing progress. There are more girls in school now compared to 15 years ago, and there are more women than ever in the labor market. But too many women still face violence, exploitation, and discrimination, and are more vulnerable to the effects of climate change and disasters. 1 in 3 women have experienced physical or sexual violence. 750 million girls were married before their 18th birthday. And women still earn only 77 cents for every dollar that men earn for the same work. When we empower women to take control of their lives, their finances, and their futures, entire families, communities, and nations benefit from the domino effect. And it's going to take men and women to make it happen. So spread the word, share this video, and let's end gender discrimination once and for all.
Hi, and thank you very much. Amazing videos. I mean, we're touching on so many of the important issues that we care about in such a short time. Inclusion, humility, confidence, climate change, fascinating. So we're here with 2 guests to discuss sports. So we have Lex, we will start with you from Beyond Sports and from Think Beyond. And also Melanie. From the Global Foundation, the Foundation for Sports for Global Development. No, I didn't get that right. I'm so sorry. Please introduce.
Foundation for Global Sports.
Global Sports, yes. And so we will discuss how sports can be a powerful tool and a powerful platform in which to discuss the SDGs. So Lex, if you want to start. How do you think that sports can really be a powerful tool for advocacy, to engage communities around development goals?
Yeah, well, thank you, firstly, and well done to Adam and everyone at the UNSDP. It's so cool to see this. It's so different. And it was great to see MJ up there and Hope really waving the flag there for how sport can play a role. I think we saw just from that, right, how excited the girls got when they saw Hope, who is such a hero for girls, and she's such an advocate. And I think that the entire sort of women's national team, even from last year, really showed the power of how sport can lead the way around the gender equality conversation, especially around pay. So that is a very obvious one. MJ is a little bit different. He really saw his opportunity to sort of use his knowledge as a businessman, his knowledge and his experience as an Olympic legend to really use his resources in the best way possible and really focus on young people who have potential, but potentially not the access. And someone like MJ who, you know, just made waves. Who remembers MJ winning in '96, by the way? Yeah, all right, nice. Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember that growing up. I still remember the golden shoes, and I think that even though a lot of young people who he supports right now don't even remember him, you know, they weren't around when he won, but the fact that he is using the knowledge that he has, his resources, he brings them all to Dallas. You saw his incredible performance center where they can sort of extend their skills and everything. So I think there's sort of 2 sides to that, is really athletes using their voice and then athletes using their resources.
Fantastic, and thanks for mentioning gender equality. We'll come back to that in a second. So Melanie, so clearly we see that sports and SDGs sort of go hand in hand, and at least there is a lot of potential for that. What do you think that sports bring in a unique manner to this conversation and to the concrete work as well?
Well, I mean, just tailgating off what she says, sports has a universal language of inclusion, right? And everybody in one way or another can relate to sport, so it can start a conversation, and we can then start having, we can have next steps of what can we do to make change. So it's so powerful. And when we talk about athletes and what they can do to bring, MJ, and just watching the video and how he inspires youth, we run an Athletes in Excellence program where we provide grants to athletes, and it's phenomenal when what we see what they do to bring back to the communities. It's just inspiring youth. It's incredible, and it goes right into the SDGs. I mean, incredible.
Well, thank you very much.
Just to tack onto that, I think in the way I don't necessarily think that everyone can relate to sport, but I do think to the point of that it's a common language, right? So if you have two people that don't necessarily speak the same language, or they might come from different backgrounds, or they might come from different religions, getting out there on the pitch or on the court, suddenly those barriers drop away. However, I would say that you can't just throw a ball in to two groups and expect them to just get along. There has to be purpose to it. Hope supports an amazing organization called Street Soccer USA, which is where the Beyond Sport Foundation will be providing some of the funds raised, and MJ's Young Leaders program are both very purposeful. They're using sport in a very purposeful way. They have methodology behind them. They have partners behind them, and that's really where I think sport can really shine.
And speaking of sports as an equalizer, and also speaking of purpose, I mean, we often think that sports can also be a way to bring women in communities, and maybe that bringing more women to sports might be an answer to foster better social cohesion, etc. But what has to happen for gender equality to actually be the outcome of that, and how can we think about working with sports to address the systemic issues related to gender inequalities?
Yeah, want me to go first? I mean, I think one of the big things that at least we're trying to push, and I think Hope did an amazing job of talking about this, is that when we're talking about using sport to achieve gender equality when it comes to the global goals, we're not really necessarily just talking about trying to get more girls to play sports. Like, that's awesome. We definitely are advocates of that. But from where we're standing, sport can play a much bigger role in the various challenges that Hope was talking about: equal pay, economic empowerment, no more child marriage, no more violence against women. A big part of that is using sport as a tool to educate men and bring men into the conversation and raise awareness around men. So I think that that's a crucial thing, is to understand that when we're talking about gender equality and using sport, it's not just about getting girls access to play. It's using sport beyond that.
Do you want to give concrete examples from your organizations?
Yeah, I mean, we just launched a program, Courage First, where we're trying to educate not just females but men and organizations about exactly what she was just talking about. So right on, and I love that Hope mentioned that in the video. It's so important.
Yeah, I think two specific examples jump to mind. One is an amazing organization called Horn of Development Initiative in Africa, run by an awesome woman called Fatuma, in Kenya specifically, and she uses soccer to engage elders in the village as well as men to raise awareness around the dangers against FGM, and she's been incredibly successful in that. And the other example, I think, in terms of just using sport beyond just access, is a great program in India called GOAL, which is spearheaded by Standard Chartered and International Federation of Netball, which is very much around teaching girls financial literacy and economic empowerment. And that also is an awesome example of what I know that Adam and the team here are really trying to do, which is bring together unlikely partnerships, right? A bank, a federation, and an NGO in India coming together to use netball to try and get women who are typically heads of the household financially more education and more empowerment. So,
very inspiring. Are you also, Melanie, for instance, working to ensure that the sports industry also lead by example and sort of bring, the message and also the ideas or the spirit of the goals, within the sector and the industry. And do you have any thoughts about how we could best do that?
Yeah, I do. I think, in some ways that's happening, right? And partnerships are key, and I think that we can facilitate that, right, by doing more of what we're doing right now. I think awareness is a huge part of that, and if we demand change and the public is aware, it's more likely to happen. And so, thank you, Adam, for doing this. This is phenomenal and great, and we need to see more of this.
Will you agree with that? Do you want to add anything?
I think Melanie is completely right. I think that the sports industry as a leader around this, it is changing. I think that the private sector brands who are sponsoring teams, leagues, athletes are demanding more when it comes to purpose. And they are, as one of our clients, for instance, is having us redo their entire sports sponsorship strategy with purpose at the very heart of it. And I think that is really advocating for that in terms of teams and leagues in the industry really having to lead the way. But I also feel that the sport industry itself has a unique opportunity to raise awareness around the goals because it is inherently community focused, right? The fans and the people are their business. And so they connect with community more than potentially another sector. So they have a massive opportunity, and you're starting to see that come around. But we were talking before, and Melanie, you were totally right when you said, fans and just general consumers still don't know about the goals. And that is really something that teams and leagues can do, is kind of push that to the forefront of fans so that more eyeballs are getting on the UN SDGs and seeing what that's all about.
Great. So purpose and advocacy. Thank you very much to both of you.
G'day, I'm Robert Irwin, and this is my little mate Milo, the koala.
For every person that watches this video all the way through, Live Nation and I will contribute $1 to Wildlife Warriors.
We're so excited to talk to you today about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. One of these goals is life on land. This is something that I'm really passionate about because we all rely on pristine natural areas, especially when it comes to animals like koalas. Now, for a koala, they require large amounts of eucalyptus forest. Now, although having eucalyptus forest is perfect for koalas, it also provides great ecosystems for thousands of other species, and also for us humans. We need an abundance of trees and forests to give us clean air and fresh drinking water and the things required for life itself. My family and I have dedicated our lives to educating people about wildlife and wildlife conservation. It's my biggest passion and I love what I get to do. But unfortunately, wildlife around the world are having a very tough time. That's why we started Wildlife Warriors, our non-profit organisation that supports wildlife conservation projects worldwide, including the biggest of which is here in Australia, our Wildlife Hospital. We've taken in over 83,000 animals, including plenty of koalas, rehabilitated them and released them back to the wild. I'm also really excited that every time someone views this video, $1 will be donated to this vital conservation work that we do. So thank you very much for your support. Every single one of us, no matter where you live, can make a difference for conservation and for life on land. It's really not that difficult. You can do things like planting a tree. Any kind of native flora is vitally important. I'll also say that if you can encourage your peers, parents, teachers, colleagues about wildlife conservation, that makes a huge difference. If we all do something, we can definitely create positive change. So be sure to check out the link in the caption to find out even more about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And on behalf of my cuddly little friend Milo here, thank you very much for watching and thank you for your support. It really means a lot.
My name's Rainn Wilson, and now that I have your attention, I just wanted to let you know that for every person who makes it to the very end of this video, I'm talking about the very last frame, Live Nation and I will donate $1 to a charity that is very near and dear to my heart, Lide Haiti. Lide is an educational initiative in rural Haiti that uses the arts and literacy training to uplift girls who would otherwise have no access to education. Did you know that in developing countries, 1 out of 4 girls are not in school? All right, we're halfway there, so home stretch. The United Nations has agreed on a set of 17 Global Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, to end poverty and to protect the planet. And goal number 4 is all about creating access to education for every child around the globe. Did you know that? There has been enormous progress towards achieving the target of universal primary education, with the worldwide number of children out of school dropping by almost half. But in some developing countries with high levels of poverty, armed conflicts, and other emergencies, progress has been tough. Children from the poorest households are up to 4 times more likely to be out of school than those from the richest households. Sustainable Development Goal number 4 aims to ensure that all girls and boys complete free primary and secondary schooling by 2030 and have universal access to a quality higher education and affordable vocational training. You made it! Girls across Haiti, thank you, as do I. Thanks so much for watching.
I told you would see me again. So this panel we have right now is a really interesting panel. We have 2 incredible people up here. We have Alyssa Pollock from iHeartRadio, and we have Stacey George from Live Nation. Now this panel is interesting for a few different reasons. First, all 3 of us have worked together in partnership on a bunch of different projects. And I think that's a really cool way to set up a panel, because even though we've worked together, we've each done individual projects also that help push these goals forward. So would you both take a moment and talk a little bit about what you do?
Yes, I'm at iHeartMedia, as you said, and I do all the custom brand artist partnerships and work on multi-platform campaigns with music artists and brands.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. I am Senior Vice President of Talent for Live Nation New York. And basically what that means is I get to book and promote concerts all over the New York region. We have clubs in New York ranging from Irving Plaza, Gramercy Theater, and then we book concerts into Barclays, Madison Square Garden, Radio City, Jones Beach, PNC, and that's just in this market. And Live Nation is actually a global company that has, we produce about 35,000 shows a year.
Amazing. So we talk a lot about today and all the time about individual action to help fight the climate crisis. One of the things that we're talking about today is partnerships, but also how we can amplify those individual voices to affect larger numbers of people. And so both of your organizations do that. They reach huge numbers of people. Can you talk a little bit about why each of your companies are unique?
Yeah, our company is very interesting because we actually have a very diverse range of assets. So the main core of our business is we own 858 radio stations, and our total broadcast reach is about 380 million people a month. And in addition to that, we have about 140 million social followers, about the same in our iHeartRadio digital app. So across all of those platforms, we're reaching hundreds of millions of people. And I think what is very unique about our platform is the relationship that we have with our listeners, because radio is typically like the companion. It's that person sitting next to you in the car, or that person that you're listening to music with. So the relationship and the conversation that goes on constantly between our jocks and our personalities and the people in their local communities is very strong, because it's more like you're talking to a friend. So when they're talking about a specific message, it's something that feels like it's being recommended to you by a friend versus it's something that is just you're reading or you're seeing a sign for. And because we have such tremendous reach, we have a big national footprint, but because of those local radio stations, we're really able to laser focus the message into those individual markets so that we can really raise awareness around different programs, as well as educate and activate people in the local communities to take big and small actions that, you know, obviously are going to give back and have an impact on the world so that we can hopefully hit those goals in 2030.
And for us, you know, something as simple, you know, we have millions of fans that walk through our doors every year to our venues. So, you know, one initiative, we have something as simple as by 2021, we will be banning all single-use plastic in all of our venues. We now have refillable water stations, and we participate in the program Bring Your Own Bottle to the concerts. And on top of that, the actual real rock stars, I will say, of the night after all the fans leave and go home after the concert is the team that comes in to the venues. There's about 20 people per night to each of our venues that separate all the waste, and they decide if we're going to compost it, if we're going to recycle it, or if we're actually going to donate it.
That's amazing. So today we're talking about all the goals, but one of the focuses that we have today is on partnerships. Can you guys talk about any specific partnerships that you've had with artists?
Yeah, we do actually a ton of those. So we often work with the Global Citizens Festival, for instance, which is obviously a huge festival that partners fans and activists together, and we use our platforms. We have, again, the ability to really customize the program. So depending on what artists we're working with and what cause, we might use PSAs that will run on our radio stations, or we might use long-form programming that we run on the weekends. It could be social campaigns, it could be digital campaigns, but again, Global Citizens is a great one, but we just did a great campaign recently, for instance, where we partnered with a bunch of different artists and had them create a vignette around what were the causes that were important to them. And at the same time, we bought tickets to those concerts in the markets that those artists were on tour, and we went into those individual markets and surprised people in that community that were giving back with concert tickets to that artist. So it was a really cool full circle campaign because it was supporting the artist, but it was also really rewarding people that were doing something good in their local community.
And for us at Live Nation, you know, we're lucky that we work with all different artists and each of them have different goals of what they want to achieve. For example, Adam, you came to us and you have this initiative, and we wanted to support that as an artist that, you know, has toured through a bunch of our venues. Another initiative that we just launched this year was Questlove from The Roots. He has the vegan cheesesteak, and we, in 2020, we brought that into all of our amphitheaters for the summertime, and that was a big goal of his. You know, there's certain artists that they have different riders that dictate what they want to do. Jack Johnson, he has a whole sustainability rider that he sends over to us before we even get to confirm the show, and we have to literally, it's about a 10-page rider that we have to bring in a lot of extras just in order to promote and book the show for Jack Johnson to come, and that's important to him. A lot of artists, it's important to have a vegan backstage. Billie Eilish is one that we're working on right now, and all of her concerts, the backstage has to be completely vegan. Morrissey is another artist like that. So we allow the artists to dictate what is important to them, and our job is to implement their goals.
And those are some great examples, because I think that's exactly what ties all of us together on this panel, because for any of the projects that you're working on, we're obviously huge partners and huge partners of yours. So we also worked on your campaign and, made sure that the message got out to everybody. We had some great calls to action. But each of those different campaigns that Stacy would be working on, we would often serve as an amplification of that message. So while we might be helping promote the tour for Billy, or maybe with Coldplay, I know who this is a big cause for, we would not only be promoting the concert, but we would be making sure that we were getting that individual message of that artist across to all of our fans as well.
Yeah, basically, it sort of trickles down. This artist, AJR, wants to play a venue with us. We book and promote the show. We therefore have to sell the tickets. We have to market the show, and then
Right, and then we would amplify all of the messages.
We go to her team and we say, hey, how can we work together to help not only market and ticket the show, but make sure that the message that the artist wants to get across is happening.
Exactly.
Amazing. So to tie the conversation back a little bit to social good, can you talk about the example that we had discussed earlier of Ariana Grande and her work, and how both of you have participated in that?
Yeah, so this was an interesting thing to me, because when Ariana went through what she did with Manchester, and she did the big benefit concert, we were a huge partner in that, from helping with the booking and, really...
Apologies. For those who don't know, that there was a shooting at Ariana Grande's concert.
At an Ariana Grande concert in Manchester. And she wanted to go back later on and do a benefit concert to raise awareness and also raise money for the victims of that incident. And it was a massive, massive global concert that everybody was kind of in on and supporting, with her manager, Scooter Braun. So we were very involved in the conversation from the beginning, helping them plan and book and, crafting the message. And we also broadcast the concert across all of our radio stations that day. It was incredibly impactful. I remember sitting in my car and crying when listening to it. And the interesting thing that management had said to us after that was, you guys really were part of creating pop culture and driving it, versus a lot of other platforms that afterwards could only either report on it or put up a playlist. But we were really able to be such an integral part of every bit of that event, and putting the message out and the call to action to raise money, and the whole campaign and awareness around, obviously, the cause of violence. And
Thank you so much. Before we move on to our last video, I just want to share a little bit about what the next steps are, because it's great that we're showcasing these videos today, but there is a next step to the project. This isn't the end. So the concept behind this, of watching videos all the way through in order to raise money, has this next step, and that is working with companies, working with brands, and working with advertisers. So in 2020, our project is to work with as many advertisers as possible. I'm sure many of you have been on YouTube or Instagram and seen a 30-second ad, but you swipe right past it or skip the ad. So what we're doing is we're incentivizing people to watch complete ads by saying at the bottom of the screen, if you watch this ad all the way through, we are going to donate to a specific cause. And this benefits everybody. This gets the companies, there are people watching their ads all the way through, which is what they're looking for. You feel good about yourself, even though you're consuming an advertisement. I mean, who would have thought that? And the charities benefit tremendously, because they're raising so much money for people who are consuming these ads. So that's the next step for this project. But before we watch our last video, can we please give these amazing panelists a big round of applause? Thank you so much. One more video.
In 2015, world leaders came together at the United Nations to develop a plan to end poverty and inequality around the world while protecting the planet from the effects of climate change.
They agreed on 17 global.
In In 2015, world leaders came together at the United Nations to develop a plan to end poverty and inequality around the world while protecting the planet from the effects of climate change.
They agreed on 17 global goals called the Sustainable Development Goals.
For every person that watches this video all the way through, Live Nation and AJR will contribute $1 to help achieve these goals.
Goal 17 is all about partnerships.
We need to develop as many partnerships as we can across the world. Corporations, governments, academia, foundations, and every one of us.
If we're going to achieve the global goals by 2030, everyone needs to be a part of the process. That's why we have so many partnerships on tour.
There are a lot of artists doing a lot of things nowadays to help make their tours carbon neutral. People like Billie Eilish, Shawn Mendes, even Coldplay said that they're not going to tour anymore until they can actually make their tours completely carbon neutral. We're doing what we can by working with a lot of companies and creating all these partnerships to make our tour as sustainable as possible. So because we're an independent band, we actually have to have a lot of partnerships. When you're with a major label, they have everything in-house. They have publicists, merch companies, all that stuff in-house. So we actually have a lot of partnerships because we're independent. And one of our main partnerships is with our merch company. So what we're doing is we're planting trees. We're going to plant a tree for every single order that we send out this holiday season. And the tree is actually going to pull carbon out of the atmosphere over its lifetime, pulling out the carbon that we put into it by shipping these items. And obviously it's not a perfect solution, but we're doing what we can with these partnerships to try and alleviate the climate crisis. Two of the most important partnerships we have on the road are with the venues and with the bus company. We work with the venues to get something called a rider, which is the food and materials that are provided, and then some of it we bring back to the bus for us to use on a day-to-day basis, and that's called the bus stock. Starting with cups, we use as many reusable cups as possible. These are glasses, and we have mugs here as well. In this mug, we have two different types of silverware that we use. One is actual silverware. In the venue, sometimes we use this and it might look like plastic, but it's actually bioplastic and it's recyclable. Sometimes we get bulk items for the bus like coffee and sugar, and we move them into these large containers as not to have as many plastic containers around. One of the other partnerships we have on tour is with the incredible organization called March for Our Lives. It's a student-run organization. So at a bunch of the dates of our tour, we've had students come and set up booths in the lobby to register people to vote and educate our fans about gun sense legislation. Why was it important for you to get involved with the organization?
So Parkland happened in my community of Broward County, South Florida, where I grew up, and I also live in Orlando, Florida, where Pulse happened. So we're kind of known as the gunshine state, or the generation of mass shootings, and that's not something that we want to be labeled as. Frankly, we're over it. So now we're out here fighting every single day to make sure that nobody goes through what our community went through, and we're tired of going to vigils, we're tired of planning vigils, we're tired of these anniversaries. We're just ready to fight and make sure that this never happens again, and it's just a part of history.
Wait, are we done?
Are we done?
Are we done?
Is that all of them? No, we're not done. Everyone has
No.
to go home and now do something, right?
Exactly. What does everyone have to do? Take out your phones. So now you've seen all the videos, watch them again and share them, like them, and take action.
A big thank you to our sponsors for today, Live Nation and the Foundation for Global Sports Development, and make sure to share those videos when you get home. Thank you everyone for being here today.
Thank you.